am Dr. Erica Burks. I am here to discuss another interesting topic with you, and that pertains to talking too much. I am doing this video solo. Dr. Ellison is not with me today, but I think we'll still have a pretty good conversation. So like I said, the conversation that I want to discuss with you today about talking too much is critical. And I know it can seem so minor, but I can promise you it makes a huge difference in your personal and professional life. So the words that I want to share today are discernment and discretion, which I'll show you the definitions now. But essentially both of them pertain to oversharing information. So you can overshare information in job interviews, personally, in casual conversation, in meetings, at work in general, or with strangers. And the problem with oversharing information is you pretty much give people either insight on what's going on in your life personally, or you overshare information that may be unwarranted in the moment. So I saw an article by a journalist named Allison Green. And in the article, she talked about an employee who was fairly new in her profession. And I'll also make sure that I include the article link below. But anyway, she was fairly new in her position, or she was a young professional, and her supervisor pulled her aside and pretty much gave her feedback that in meetings they feel essentially that she over talks. Now, sidebar, I sincerely hope that that's not the manner in which the manager gave her feedback, because that is a whole nother issue. 0 out of 10, I do not recommend leaders to have conversations in this manner. It is okay to give constructive feedback, but you also need to make sure that you preface it professionally, because the whole goal is to give the feedback desiring improvement, not to make an employee feel like you are criticizing them. But essentially, moving on, in the meetings, apparently, the employee talked a lot. They were very assertive in their communication, and in that, it came off as you are a know-it-all or being arrogant. And so that was deemed, while she was under the impression that she was just talking about and adding to the conversation, adding value to the conversation, it was perceived as she was presenting herself as being a know-it-all or trying to stand out, and it could have possibly made her team look bad, which can be true in certain situations, but I also think that it can be considered asinine to criticize someone in some capacity if they have a lot to talk about, because there are times where it may not be oversharing, and it can simply be you're just adding value to the conversation, or you're sharing thoughts, or you're trying to brainstorm. So in those capacities, I can also see how that could add value to, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are a know-it-all. So the challenge is we only know one side to the conversation. We don't know how that conversation went in general. I can only hope that it did not happen in that manner. So another reason why I encourage you not to talk too much, essentially, is, and this is a really simple conversation, believe it or not, but I think the void is some people don't understand just how critical it is when you overshare information. One, everyone should not be privy to everything that you know. I've always heard the saying that keep the left hand from knowing what the right hand was doing. My mother used to always mention that as an example. But ultimately, another thing is when you overshare information, that could hinder your progress. One, I have seen so many times where you become very transparent. You think you created a work bestie, and then you two fall out, and then they come to work and tell all of your business. Or going back to the job interview, stick to the questions that they're asking you. Sometimes people go in there and they're nervous, and their nerves get the best of them, and then they start talking too much. And then they start talking about, okay, obviously you want a new position, but in that conversation, if someone says, or I've had experiences where I'm simply asking, well, why are you looking for a new position? And they could have simply said, I'm just looking for growth opportunities. I have, these objectives and things that I want to achieve, whatever. But instead, I've had employees or candidates who come in and proceed to talk negatively about the organization, name dropping people, speaking ill about their leadership and coworkers. And for me, while those things may be, true, it's not professional. And so to myself as an interviewer and as, the leaders and whomever else is present, that could leave a very nasty taste in one's mouth, because then it's like, well, we don't know that you're truly leaving because you want advancement opportunity. You can no longer be employed. We have no clue. But the point is, it doesn't leave a good reflection on you, because if things don't work out here, how do we know that you won't badmouth us in the next interview? And then we don't even know if you are truly still employed. But using that as an example, can you see how that can present a problem, because now you just shared more information than we needed to know? I have dealt with that more times than I can count, but I can assure you, just as an inside look, that is how that presents itself. Now, let's take it away from work, right? Let's apply this to your personal life. Now, Dr. Ellison, we speak a lot about where Be Professional was birthed from, and when when the idea of Be Professional came into play, we didn't share it with everybody. We shared it with, of course, our significant others. We shared it with close people, but this wasn't something that we were broadcasting all over the web. We weren't having open conversations. We kind of kept it under wraps because we knew what we were trying to do. We knew what God gave us to do. And so we made it a point to keep it contained until it was time to share it. And by the time we shared it, we had already gotten everything, our business plan together, so that when we presented it to everyone, it was already done. Oftentimes, and like I said, taking it out of the professional realm, when you share this with certain people, everyone doesn't wish you well. And so you could be sharing these goals and objectives and ambitions and aspirations, et cetera, and the person that you are talking to could be talking negatively about you. They could be giving somebody else. It could be a competitor. It can be somebody that's trying to mock. Now, granted, what's for you is for you. And if God put it in you, it is still yours. No one can take that away from you. However, they could be sharing it with somebody who doesn't care for you. Someone else could be trying to steal your ideas. Someone else can be preying on your downfall. We don't know. But now something that's intimate and private to you, and something that's special to you, and something that is your baby and that you take a lot of pride in, is now being disclosed with someone that you didn't authorize to be privy to that conversation or to know what is going on in your life. I have been guilty of that, so I'll be honest with you on oversharing in a job interview, being too transparent in the workplace, being too trusting of people very early on without them proving that they are even worthy of that trust. And then also sharing, not like I mentioned, be professional, but oversharing when I speak to other people. And it didn't end well either way. So the discretion in this is knowing what is appropriate to share. I feel like the discernment in this is knowing when to share it and who to share it with. And so I think it's important as a professional and as an individual in itself to just be mindful of those things, because as you embark on your journeys, sometimes I have people who want to go back to school. And some people get on the internet and they're excited and they share their acceptance letters, et cetera, and then they don't do well. And then the next thing we know, you're reaching out because you're excited and you want to know how they're doing on their journey, and then they have to come and tell you that they're no longer pursuing it. And I know for people who are close to them, they already know that. They already know that for whatever reason, they're no longer on their journey. But for someone on the outside, I would think that that's relatively embarrassing or disheartening to have to share that with people, because I'm pretty sure you're not sharing that with the same excitement that you did not progress or that it did not work out as you did when you expressed that was an endeavor that you are embarking on. So the most important thing that I can give you, professionals and people in general, is that everybody does not need to know your business. You are entitled to a level of privacy, but on the contrary, you have to respect that on all sides. It's a two-way street. So don't feel like you are entitled to people's personal business. Don't feel like you need to know every intricate detail if it is right and if you need to know, or treat things on a need to know basis. You'll know when the time is right, and if you don't know, maybe it's just not meant for you to, and that is okay too. Share things that are helping to advance you professionally and personally. Share things that add value, but also be mindful, because I saw something, and I'll have to go back and find it, and I'll link that below as well. But it said 95% of people feel like they have dealt with people who have overshared information. Now, oversharing can also be subjective, because what I may think is oversharing may be different than what the next person may consider to be oversharing. But that's where that discernment comes into play. That's where that discretion comes into play. It is pivotal, and I really think that that is not only a professional lesson, but also a life lesson that one needs to apply. So I will leave you with this, and if you want to go into this conversation in more detail, absolutely, we can interact and talk more in the comments below. But what I will say is, there's a very interesting scripture that aligns with the topic today, and it is Proverbs 10 and 19. Now, of course, I'm not going to read it verbatim, because I'm always going to encourage you to read the word for yourself. However, if I could summarize it, it pretty much talks about how wisdom comes from using discernment, and you have to be mindful about what you choose to discuss. So basically, the Bible is telling you, if you are wise, you will make sure that you don't talk too much. The word also says that there is life and death that lies within the power of the tongue. So when you are sharing things, you have to be mindful of who you are sharing it with, how you are sharing it, how you are speaking about it. Are you speaking life into yourself or someone else? Or are you speaking death? Or not necessarily death, but are you speaking negatively about something or someone? Again, that goes back to why you need to be mindful of what you share. So anywho, professionals, I really love this topic. Of course, I love talking to you, but I can sit here for an extended amount of time and go into this conversation in more detail. But this is an interactive conversation per usual. So talk to me, I talk back. And if I can't leave you with anything else, is you are phenomenal, you are great, you have so much to offer. And I want you all to always be safe, keep being professional. Bye.